The full-size, luxury-oriented Mitsubishi Pajero may have been discontinued years ago, but its simpler, more straightforward iteration, the Pajero Sport, carried on up to these days. And it will continue to be one of the rare, genuine off-roaders on the market for many more years, as the new generation is on the way. The all-new 2024 Mitsubishi Pajero Sport is coming, a new generation of off-roading bliss. Just like the previous generations, the new Pajero Sport will share most of the parts with its pickup sibling, the Triton. Also known as the L200 on some markets, Mitsubishi's mid-size pickup has just been presented with a completely new design, and considering the tight connection between these two, we can easily predict some of the most important changes for the SUV iteration, even though the officials are still quiet about the new model. Of course, one of the first things that come to mind is the new styling, and we are pretty sure that the new model will adopt the same design philosophy as the pickup, with the latest iteration of the so-called dynamic shield design language, which has always been characterized by a great mix of futuristic and rugged aesthetical solutions. Now, the newest version of this design language features a slightly more reserved, more mature look, which should be able to attract a wider range of customers, including ones that have been preferring Toyota Fortuner and Ford Everest. Another thing we expect to see, which should also have a positive impact on the model's rugged stance, is the size increase. The new Triton is 50 millimeters wider than before, so we presume the same will happen to the Pajero Sport, bringing benefits in terms of stability, handling, off-road performance, etc. The wheelbase could be stretched as well, providing more legroom in the second and third row seats. Many expected to see the new Triton and therefore the new Pajero Sport to come based on the Nissan Navara, considering the merging of the two companies. However, that didn't happen, and Mitsubishi decided to make things on its own, and if you think this means no bigger changes in terms of the chassis and suspension setup, you're wrong. Just like its pickup sibling, the new Pajero Sport will ride on a completely new chassis, which brings a two-direction improvement. On one hand, the massive use of high-strength steel and other lightweight materials will save some weight for sure, but at the same time, the company claims a massive rigidity increase. Just like the Triton, the Pajero Sport will benefit from 40% increased bending rigidity and 60% increased torsional rigidity. That certainly has a positive effect on handling and on-road ride quality in general, which has always been a weaker side of Pajero Sport's setup. The next thing to talk about is suspension, and of course off-roading is the first thing that comes to mind. Therefore, we expect evolutionary changes in this aspect with a double wishbone front suspension at the front and multi-link setup on the other end, resulting in very good off-road suspension articulation, but also in smooth and comfortable ride. We presume the Japanese manufacturer is going to do some fine-tuning to help this SUV extend in this aspect even more. On paper, the Pajero Sport always seemed like a perfectly balanced SUV, with a spacious and comfortable cabin, but also quite rugged overall design that ensured off-road performance, endurance, reliability, and longevity. However, the thing we never liked about it is that the same utilitarian approach was very notable on the inside. Of course, no one expects to see a car-like interior in a vehicle like this, but the outgoing generation is pretty much identical to the Triton in terms of the dashboard design and overall quality. A good thing is that the new Triton has been presented recently, so even if the company decides to offer two identical interiors once again, things are going to be much better. Instead of looking Spartan, the new pickup looks way more elegant from the inside, even though it still puts focus on functionality over style. The 2024 Mitsubishi Pajero Sport would definitely benefit from such a design approach because of the nicer materials, better build quality, and more attractive aesthetics. We also like very much how Mitsubishi has executed the infotainment system and the rest of the tech features, because despite the new software, bigger screen, and similar things, there is still a solid number of physical buttons and knobs, not just for audio and climate controls, but for numerous infotainment shortcuts as well. What we particularly like is that Mitsubishi engineers had off-road enthusiasts in mind when designing these buttons, as they are still oversized, so you can easily operate them with your gloves on. The instrument cluster is a mix of digital and analog gauges, with a relatively decently sized 7-inch information display that comes in a combination with classic instruments. It may not be the fanciest solution by today's standards, but it's functional and easy to live with. After all, the Japanese manufacturer might offer a fully digital unit in range-topping models. As for the seating configuration, we presume the general idea is about to remain the same, with the standard models featuring 2 rows of seats, and with the 3rd row available as an upgrade. Still, we already mentioned that the new model is about to get wider, which should reflect in more shoulder room, while the longer wheelbase will certainly add a bit of legroom, especially in the 2nd and 3rd rows. As we've just mentioned, contrary to some predictions, the new generation will continue on Mitsubishi's own platform, and therefore we are about to see familiar engine options. Of course, we are talking about the well-known 2.4-liter inline-4 turbo diesel, which has always been regarded as an engine with a great balance between performance and efficiency. Now it comes with a notable update, both in terms of power and torque. Despite the relatively modest engine size when compared to most rivals, the latest iteration of this engine features a max output of 150 kilowatt or 201 horsepower and 470 newton-meter or 347 pound-feet of torque, which is 17 kilowatt or 23 horsepower, and 40 newton-meter or 30 pound-feet more compared to the outgoing generation. Certainly that will positively affect driving dynamics, but we don't expect this upgrade to increase fuel consumption. No, it should still remain around 8 liters per 100 kilometers, just like in the outgoing model. Another just like the outgoing model thing is the transmission, as the new model will most certainly carry on with the relatively fresh 8-speed automatic transmission from Icene, which indeed does a very good job, with quick and on-time shifts and a high level of overall refinement. For years, we've been seeing how some classic SUV models are losing more and more of their off-road capabilities with each new generation coming. That won't be the case with the new 2024 Mitsubishi Pajero Sport. As we already mentioned, it will continue to ride on a rugged body-on-frame platform with off-road capable suspension. But another important thing about this Mitsubishi's well-known 4-wheel drive system. In this aspect, we don't expect any changes, so the new SUV will once again offer a good balance in the way that you can engage a fuel-saving mode with rear-wheel drive only. If you are up for some serious off-roading, the system offers a couple of useful options, starting from the full-time 4-wheel drive mode. Also, you can engage the center locker and benefit from a 50-50 torque split, while low-range gearing is also a part of the standard equipment on this system, just like hill descent and hill ascent controls are. Finally, we expect the same very generous selection of drive modes, just like in the new Triton, with 7 driving regimes in total: normal, eco, gravel, snow, mud, sand, and rock. As mentioned, the officials are still quiet about the new Pajero Sport, but if we can trust our usually reliable insiders, the next generation is about to debut sometime in the next year, while the exact date will vary depending on the market. Speaking of the markets, the current generation is predominantly sold in parts of the world like Australia, the Philippines, Indonesia, and various Asian countries, and we don't expect things to change much in the next year. The same thing is true with the price. It's definitely a trump card of the current model, considering that the base price in Australia goes way under $50,000. For comparison, base versions of rival models such as Ford Everest and Toyota Fortuner go around $53,000 and $54,000 respectively. And we expect a similar correlation to remain after the new model arrives. What do you think about the new 2024 Mitsubishi Pajero Sport? Will these changes make it more competitive in the segment? Will the new model remain a value-for-money choice on the market of midsize SUVs? Let us know in the comments and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you next time.